also analyze words. Let's see if this goes. So what we have here is I can go back and look at the different State of the Unions. So for example, Barack Obama in 2016, Gerald Ford, Harry S. Truman, Theodore Roosevelt, James Buchanan, Andrew Jackson, James Monroe, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington. And what I can do is I can look at their speech and analyze the words in their speech. So for example, if I go to Barack Obama, let's look at Barack Obama's speech in 2010. Now, they analyze every word in the speech, and you'll notice there's a bunch of words on the screen, but the words don't look the same. What do you notice? They're different sizes. So if the word's larger, what do you think that means? He said it more. So what words did he say more in his 2010 address? Americans, jobs, families, businesses, let's, values, right? So generally presidents have a speechwriter and they have a message to come across. If you want your message to come across, all you have to do is repeat a word. And the more you repeat it, the more people will hear it and the more people will believe it. So for example, this speech went, "My fellow Americans, let's tonight help Americans, help American families. We got to help Americans with jobs because Americans need jobs for their families. It's an important American value to have jobs because in America, we need to help American families because we need jobs. Jobs are important for Americans. Jobs in America is important for families. Thank you." You left, and what are you going to remember? Wow, that guy likes Americans. He wants Americans to have jobs. And all I have to do is say it over and over and over again, right? So we can analyze words. So what I asked you to do the first week, what I asked you to do last week was to answer that survey through Blackboard. So I asked you to So what I asked you to do is I asked you to go to your Blackboard and answer the two questions. At the time, it seemed kind of weird. Why was I asking you these two questions? And the two questions were, who are you? And why are you in college? Okay. We have to do it next class. I'll have to do next class. But what we'll do next class, remind you at the beginning, is we're going to go ahead and look at all of your responses. If you haven't done it, do it for next class. If you haven't done it, do it for next class. And I'm going to analyze who you are as a class and why are you in college. So remind me next class, that's how we start. Okay? So what I'd like to do in our last 10 minutes then is I want us to start chapter 3. So believe it or not, we're done with chapter 2. We're going to start chapter 3. What we're going to talk about in chapter 3, is mean and median. Mean and medians. Now, median and mean are two ways to find the center. There are two ways to find the center. But there are two different ways to find the center. Median is the number in the middle. So just a quick refresher on median. If I asked you, bless you, what is the median of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What would the median be? 3. You put the numbers in order, it's the number in the middle. But what if I asked you the median of 1, 2, 3, 4? What would the median be? It would be between the 2 and 3. You would average them and get 2.5. So depending on if there's an odd number or an even number, there's a little different strategy for median. But the bottom line, you put them in order, what's in the middle. But if I asked you for the mean of, let's say, 1, 3, 5, 9, how would you find the mean of 1, 3, 5, 9? You would add them up, and then what? Divide by how many there are. So that would be 4 plus 5 is 9, 9 plus 9 is 18, 18 divided by 4 is 4.5. So they both find center, but they find them in different ways. So which one's preferred? Which is better, mean or median? And the answer is they're both good. They both find center, but we do have preferences. And the preferences are based on what the data looks like. If your data is symmetric, the mean and the median are in the middle. So if your data is symmetric, we prefer the mean. If your data is symmetric, we prefer the mean. Why? The mean takes all the numbers into account. But if the data is skewed either left or right, we prefer the median. If the data is skewed left or right, we prefer the median. So if the data is symmetric, we prefer mean. If the data is skewed either left or right, we prefer the median. Now, why is that? If the data is symmetric, the mean and the median are both in the center. And between the two, the mean takes every number into account. So it's a little bit better. But if the data is skewed, either skewed to the right or skewed to the left, you'll notice the median is always dead center. It doesn't move. It doesn't matter if it's skewed left or skewed right. The median is always dead center. But the mean moves towards the drag. And you know this. If you got a 95, a 94, and a 92 on your first 3 exams, fantastic. Ooh, then your 4th test is a 50. What happens to your average? It drops. It goes towards the skew. Same thing if you get a 50, a 55, and a 46 on your first 3 tests, and then you get a 95. What happens to your average? It goes up. But the median never moves. The median is whatever number's in the middle. So if I had 5 test scores, for example, if I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I got a 90 on my first test, a 92 on my second test, and a 93 on my third test. And then I got 2 zeros. I didn't study, I didn't care. So my scores are 0, 0, 92, 0, 90, 92, 93. What's my median? A 90. Would your average be a 90? No. Go ahead and add those up for me real quick. What's 0 plus 0 plus 90 plus 92 plus 93 divided by 5? What is it? 55? Big difference, right? Now again, this is a drastic example, but because of that skewness and all that, teachers like the mean because they want every test to count, but median says, hey, whatever's in the middle is the answer, okay? So what we're going to focus on in this chapter, in chapter 3, is if the data is symmetric. We're going to deal with symmetric. And if the data is symmetric, which one do we prefer? The mean. Okay? Now, I'm going to teach you how to do all this next class, but this is going to give us an opportunity to practice. So in our last 5 minutes, here's what I want you to do. We'll cover mean next class. But I want you to start looking ahead. On the next page are all the calculator steps on how to find mean. So you can start working ahead. What I'd like you to do for next class is this is real data from Michael Jordan. This is real data from Michael Jordan. I'd like you to put Michael Jordan in list 1. And for next class, I want you to make a histogram for Michael Jordan. So for next class, I want you to put Michael Jordan's scores, all 15 of them, in list 1 and make a histogram and label it. I would also like for next class you to put Kobe Bryant in list 2. Put all of Kobe Bryant's scores in list 2 and make a histogram. So again, we need to practice. We need to practice. Extra work would be play with the calculator and figure out the mean of the median. That'd be extra. But for next class, I want you to do a histogram of Michael Jordan and label it, and a histogram of Kobe Bryant and label it. Are we okay? That's what I want you to do for next class. You have 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and take attendance. You have 5 minutes.